This is Dave Helling at the Kansas City Star's Des Moines Bureau, where we are watching the final hours of the rundown to the Iowa caucuses on February 1st, and this is an analysis of the final debate among most of the Republican presidential candidates. Donald Trump, of course, was not there tonight. A couple of quick general observations about the debate. First of all, I thought it was very well conducted by Fox News. The questions were sharp. The answers were sharp. The differences among the candidates were fairly clear, except in one or two areas, which we'll talk about. But by and large, it was interesting, compelling discussion of important issues among the Republicans. Just a good debate. And I think it was helped by Donald Trump's absence in a couple of ways. The candidates talked a little bit about his decision to skip the debate, but by and large, they didn't spend a lot of time on it. They didn't spend a lot of time criticizing him. A lot of times in these debates, Donald Trump has been able to sort of suck the oxygen out of the discussion because he is so brash and bombastic. You didn't get that in the debate on Fox News on Thursday, and I think actually that was good for the process. Okay, let's go down the candidates. I'll give you some impressions about what I think I heard on Thursday night. Ted Cruz went into the debate as the perceived second-place finisher to Trump in Iowa. And I thought he did fairly well early. He used humor to talk about the Trump situation. But then he began to whine a little bit about the criticism he was getting from the other candidates, and at one point threatened to walk away just like Trump. That's never a good strategy to complain about how hard the questions are, which, by the way, Donald Trump may learn fairly quickly. So I thought that was a bad moment for Ted Cruz, and his answers on immigration policy were very confusing. That'll be a problem for him going forward, as it will be for Marco Rubio and some of the other candidates who are on the stage. Immigration continues to be a big problem as an issue for almost all of the Republican candidates, and I thought the debate was particularly confusing on that point. Marco Rubio spent a lot of time talking about his religion. That's a new effort on his part in Iowa to sort of connect with socially conservative religious caucus goers in Iowa. His delivery seemed rushed to me. He too was hung up a little bit on immigration. He just seemed a little too eager, too aggressive. You don't want to seem like you're too excitable when you're applying for a job like President of the United States, so I think that was a bit of a problem for him. I thought it was one of his poorer efforts. I thought he had done better in earlier debates, but on Thursday night he did not do well, in my view. George Bush did fairly well, although he continues to stumble, appear to be nervous. He doesn't have his answers quite as down pat as one might expect him to. And he's also the moderate voice in the race, or at least one of the more moderate voices in the race, particularly on immigration. For example, I don't think that will endear him to a lot of the Republican voters in Iowa. So I didn't think he did particularly well either. Chris Christie was very strong, very sharp. I think sometimes his logic is a little off. He talked about the San Bernardino shootings and the need for the police to go in for people who allegedly have guns, but that runs afoul of the Second Amendment. I mean, the whole point of the Second Amendment is that people can have guns like that. So his logic can be a little off, but he emphasized his experience as governor, as a prosecutor. He was quite critical of Hillary Clinton. All of those will play well for Chris Christie in Iowa. Whether it's enough to get him into the fifth or fourth place that he might want is another question, but I thought he did pretty well. Ben Carson has strong support in Iowa. He didn't speak very much during the debate. He didn't really make any news or headlines. I think he did just fine. He may get fourth or fifth in Iowa just on the basis of his organization here and his appeal. The debate won't change that one way or the other. John Kasich is clearly the most moderate of all the candidates, talking about expanding Medicaid, for example, moderate for a Republican, of course. And in another year, that might be attractive to some voters in Iowa, but it doesn't seem like that's the case this year. It seems like John Kasich will be crowded out a little bit. And then finally, Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. He said a lot of things that Republicans are just not fond of, cutting military spending. For example, he endorsed a more civil libertarian approach to some homeland security issues. But he's so crucial in these debates because he helps provide a contrast with some of the other things you hear, for example, Marco Rubio about the need for a strong defense. When he is not on the main stage, Rand Paul, sometimes I think that the whole debate suffers, so it was good to hear his voice Thursday night in Des Moines. So that's how I saw the debate here in Iowa. Again, the caucuses are February 1st. We'll see how they turn out and how Donald Trump does or doesn't do based on his decision not to participate in the Fox debate. At the Des Moines Bureau, Dave Helling for the Kansas City Star.